Morant with a running start. Elevates. Oh, it dunks. Oh, my goodness.
Tie game in overtime. Gasol will turn his heat. It's gone. Memphis on top. 7-10 remaining.
Conley now with three. Count it. A 15-point lead for Memphis. And Blake Griffin gets into it on the floor with Randolph. Hard to tell if there are any punches being thrown under there, but Griffin took acceptance.
Adams going long. Morant. He hit it. John Morant. Insanity.
You gotta be kidding me.
Welcome to Grits and Grinds, a Memphis Grizzlies podcast. My name is Keith Parrish. On today's episode, I'm going to talk about Jaren Jackson Jr. and Team USA's struggles against Lithuania. I'm going to discuss Santi Aldama having a monster offensive performance for Spain against Canada, but of course Spain got eliminated. And then I'm going to go over the two signings that the Grizzlies made on Thursday before the Labor Day weekend. Before we get there, a reminder that today's episode is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. It's a great time to sign up for Underdog Fantasy because for the start of the NFL season, Underdog is giving an exclusive offer for all new customers. In addition to their regular $100 deposit match, all new users get a mystery pick'em special, which is basically a can't-lose pick. All you need to do is sign up for Underdog using that promo code FBBF. Make a deposit and then head to the lobby to find out which mystery player special you get. On top of all of that, there's also a site-wide offer for all users where if Patrick Mahomes passes for at least 1 yard in the Chiefs' first game, you win. So it's a great time to sign up for Underdog Fantasy. Just remember to use that promo code FBBF or click the link in today's episode description to receive those sign-up bonuses. Higher or lower picks are not available in all states. All right, let's go ahead and discuss the Grizzlies rounding out their training camp roster, and then we'll talk about the FIBA World Cup where Team USA lost to Lithuania. The Grizzlies on Thursday made official one signing we've been expecting for a very long time. That is the signing of Gigi Jackson, the 45th pick out of South Carolina. They also signed Shaq Harrison. Now, the Gigi Jackson signing, he was signed to a two-way deal. We have known basically since draft night that this was going to be a two-way deal. Initially, we assumed it would be a two-way deal. Zach Kleiman basically came out and outright said, I can't remember if he specifically stated it, but he intimated it's going to be a two-way contract for Gigi Jackson. Why did it take this long? I still have no idea. I'm sorry. I don't know if there was some benefit for waiting until August 31st before putting ink to paper or signature to paper or whatever that phrase is. But Gigi Jackson now officially the third and final two-way player for the Grizzlies, joining Vince Williams Jr. and Jacob Gilyard. All of us who thought they would use that two-way spot on somebody other than Jacob Gilyard, so far we're wrong. It looks like maybe Gilyard is going to keep that spot going into training camp and the upcoming season. So that brought the Grizzlies roster to 20, and you can now have 21 players on your roster heading into training camp. And so they use that final spot on Shaq Harrison. Now, Shaq Harrison is an NBA veteran. He's been around kind of for a while. I believe he has 6 years of NBA experience. He's played in about 180 games. He's older than you might think. He's 29. If Shaq stays on the roster for training camp, because this time of the year, you see a lot of like Exhibit 10 signings. You see players get signed and then waived as teams try to organize player rights for their G League teams or to give little bonuses to their G League players. I don't know exactly what the circumstances are going to be around Shaq Harrison. Is this a guy they are interested in for having as a veteran leader for the hustle? Is this a guy they might be considering to be that emergency or that extra roster spot they can use once Ja Morant serves 6 games of his suspension. He is a shooting guard who can't shoot. He is kind of like a less spectacular DeAnthony Melton, who, again, can't shoot. He just like a defender, rebounder, hustler, kind of like a worse Josh Okogie, I guess is the player comp I would do. Interestingly, last year, he only played a few games during the regular season. He was on the Trailblazers, but he got waived and then picked up with the Lakers for the playoffs. He actually scored 9 points in garbage time in the second round of the playoffs in a big blowout win over the Warriors. So Shaq or Shaquille Harrison, like, is he going to just be there for increased competition to balance out the roster in training camp? Will they want to just get a better look at him and then consider signing him once they get that extra roster spot made available to them for the suspended player rule or whatever that's called? Or are they just going to waive him and then maybe just want to bring him back to play on the hustle? I don't have any idea, but the Grizzlies right now carrying 21 players, a full complement of players on their team. That, of course, is the 15, what I'll call main roster guys, plus Josh Christopher and Isaiah Todd. Those guys both on guaranteed deals, both acquired in transactions this offseason. I don't know if they're going to be considered for one of the final 15 roster spots, but the Grizzlies have 17 guaranteed contracts. Those 3 two-way players, Gigi Jackson, Vince Williams Jr., and Jacob Gilyard, and then Shaq Harrison. He's the 21st player. And by the way, if he's on the team during training camp, he will be the 3rd oldest player at training camp. He is only 2 months younger than Steven Adams. Derrick Rose and Steven Adams, the oldest 2 players on the Grizzlies. Shaq Harrison, 2 months younger than Steven Adams. He's a full year older than Marcus Smart. So I don't know what the plan is with Shaq Harrison. Of course, he's the type of guy I like, as you probably know as a Grits and Grinds listener. I like the hustlers, the defenders who struggle to shoot. For whatever reason, that might be my favorite archetype of player. So will we ever see him in a Grizzlies uniform? I would say odds are no, but the odds have greatly increased as he signs to be on this roster right now. All right. FIBA World Cup basketball on Sunday was incredibly interesting. First and foremost, you had Team USA losing to Lithuania. Lithuania has Jonas Valanciunas, also former NBA player Donatas Motiejunas, Mindaugas Kuzminskis, a handful of guys who we've seen in the NBA. It was a bad loss for Team USA in, I guess, maybe the manner it went down, or anytime Team USA loses, you consider that to be a bad loss at this point. Lithuania outshot Team USA from 3. They made a bunch of 3-pointers. They made their first 9 3-pointers of the game. And then, of course, Lithuania out-rebounded Team USA by a lot. Got a bunch of second chance points. They had 18 offensive rebounds. They had 16 more total rebounds. And Jaren Jackson Jr. is getting a fair amount of the blame, perhaps an excessive amount of the blame. I continue to maintain, and it's probably because I'm a homer, that this was just a roster issue. We knew this about the team going in, that they would be a bad rebounding team. Now, the thing that you can fairly criticize Jaren for after this performance, I think, beyond the rebounding, is the fouling. Jaren got in immediate foul trouble. He picked up a foul on the first defensive possession, and you knew it was going to be an issue. You knew, again, before all of these World Cup qualifiers or not exhibitions started, when you looked at this Team USA roster, you're like, hey, Jaren's the main big guy. If he gets in foul trouble, when he plays a team like Lithuania with Jonas Valanciunas, it's going to be hard for Jaren not to get in foul trouble. And I don't know if he was psyched out knowing that he had to avoid foul trouble, but on the first possession, he picks up a foul just kind of wrestling with Jonas Valanciunas. And I'm like, what are you even doing, Jaren? Like, you know this is going to be a problem. And then, lo and behold, a few possessions later, 3 minutes into the game, Jaren picks up his second foul on Jonas Valanciunas for bodying him on a post-up. So then Jaren goes to the bench. 2 quick fouls. We knew this would be a problem. And then this is not Jaren's fault, but Lithuania made all those three-pointers. Most of them were wide open. Yeah, going 9 for 9, absolutely a statistical aberration. But Lithuania was wide open on these three-point shots. And Team USA found themselves down 31-12 after the first quarter. So Jaren comes in, start of the second quarter. In the previous game, which I'll talk about a little bit, because Jaren played well in the second half against Montenegro. This was also a close game against a team with a big front line. But in the previous game, Jaren had picked up 2 fouls in the first quarter and didn't play at all in the second quarter against Montenegro, as Steve Kerr got very conservative in his dealings with Jaren's foul trouble. Want to make sure he had at least 3 fouls to use in the entire second half. That decision, I think you can say, paid off for Team USA and for Jaren. Jaren had a pretty nice second half against Montenegro. He finished with 11 points. He made a sweeping right-handed hook at the shot clock buzzer with just like 2 minutes left to ice the game, or I think it put Team USA up 8. It was a big shot for Jaren. Again, Jaren had a good offensive second half. He made some nice defensive plays against Montenegro as far as making them adjust shots in the paint. He got a steal in that one. So Steve Kerr, you could argue, based on the results of what happened, said, all right, he made the right decision by not playing Jaren for the entire second quarter against Montenegro because Jaren had already picked up 2 fouls. Now, fast forward to Sunday, the game against Lithuania. Team USA is down 19. I think because they're down 19, Steve Kerr says, like, no, I need to play Jaren. I don't want to fall down any worse. So Jaren comes in, and he picks up his 3rd foul in a very frustrating fashion. This is not like him trying to block a shot at the rim. He put 2 hands on Jonas, and Jonas did a rip-through move. And, like, Jaren has to be better than that, has to be more aware than that. So Jaren picks up his 3rd foul again, goes out, barely plays in the first half. He basically avoids getting in worse foul trouble in the second half. He does adjust. I mean, Jaren, he's getting criticized because Team USA lost. He finished with 1 rebound. He did have, I think, a nice offensive game against Montenegro, but had 0 rebounds. So, like, it's factually correct to say in the last 2 games, Jaren Jackson Jr., Team USA's starting center, had 1 rebound. He went 6 straight quarters without getting a rebound. Again, those are factually correct things to say, but as someone who may or may not manipulate stats for a living, those are misleading stats. Like, he didn't play in all those quarters. Yes, the foul trouble is an issue. He barely played in a few of the quarters because of foul trouble. Like, it is Jaren's fault. He's picking up fouls, so he's not out there to rebound. But, like, Jaren doesn't have to get all the rebounds. Rebounding is a team activity. Rebounds are not necessarily an important individual statistic. Now, should Jaren rebound better? Of course. He's not an elite rebounder. We talk about this all the time. I still think his rebounding problems are overstated. He's an okay rebounder. He's not a dominant rebounder. But again, this repeating a thing I've said basically every episode for weeks now. There are 2 okay rebounders. There's 2 good rebounders on Team USA. Josh Hart, an elite rebounder for his position. Bobby Portis, I would call him a good rebounder for his position. Everybody else in this team, average to below average rebounder for their position. I mean, maybe you could say like Halliburton is a good rebounder for a point guard. Fine. There are no elite rebounders on this team. Walker Kessler, fine. Okay, he grabs rebounds. But like none of these guys have the rebounding gene except for Josh Hart and maybe Bobby Portis. So like that probably highlights the fact that, Jaren is also not grabbing rebounds. That's correct, but like it's more of a team problem. I'm not going to blame Jaren for the rebounding. Like we're asking Jaren to do too much. Like you want the best shot blocker in the NBA who's also an incredibly versatile defender and also a good offensive weapon to also be a dominant rebounder and be able to guard 7 foot, 260 pound centers. That's a lot to ask of Jaren. Like that's why he's not a top 10 NBA player. Jaren's a top 30 NBA player. If he were Andre Drummond on the glass or Steven Adams on the glass, he'd be a top 10 player. So like, I think our frustrations with Jaren, I think they can rightly be on the foul trouble. He made bad fouls in this game. The rebounding, yes, it could be better, but I don't know if it's correct or fair to totally criticize him. Like this Team USA squad with a bunch of not good rebounders, you can't go into the huddle if you're Steve Kerr and be like, hey guys, we have to rebound. I mean, you can, but that doesn't fix it. This is a roster issue. Like Jaren's not going to keep Jonas Valanciunas off of the glass. You guys remember how Steven Adams totally erased Sabonis, Domantas Sabonis in that game. I believe it was on New Year's Day. It was one of those New Year's Eve or New Year's Day games where in the fourth quarter, Steven Adams neutralized Sabonis completely. Not even neutralized him, erased him. Sabonis could not get a rebound. Sabonis is a good rebounder. Could not get a rebound because Steven Adams said, know what? I'm just going to box you out where you can't even move. I'm that much bigger than you. Basically, Jonas can do that to Jaren when it comes to rebounding. Now, where Jonas did a good job of baiting Jaren into first half foul trouble, Jaren did adapt. In the second half, Jaren got Jonas into foul trouble. Jaren drew 2 offensive fouls on Jonas Valanciunas. So Jaren had a humiliating first half. That's what I called it on social media. His fouls, the 3 fouls he committed, knowing that like basically I can't get into foul trouble, I thought they were unbelievably poor. In the second half, Jaren adjusted. He got Jonas into foul trouble. Jaren made a big 3-pointer. Like, he did some fine things, but it was too little too late. Him not being available for the Team USA in the first half was a big issue. And then Team USA beyond Jaren, like Jalen Brunson had a bad game. Like, this team was not moving the basketball. They were not defending. They were not rebounding, which is a team activity, not just a Jaren activity. Like, when Jaren was out with foul trouble, are you going to blame him for Team USA's rebounding? Well, if you think Jaren's terrible at rebounding, him being off the court should have been good for Team USA's rebounding. Like, you see how that doesn't work? Like, the roster up and down, not very good at rebounding. And Jaren, with, again, rightfully getting blamed, I think, for the foul trouble. Team USA can get blamed for the rebounding. I don't think you can lay that all at the feet of Jaren Jackson Jr. But the loss to Lithuania, Team USA got back into the game, got within 4 a couple times in the second half. Jaren actually had a 3-pointer that would have cut it to 1, but he missed that one. Team USA got very, very close at the end. It felt like, honestly, they were going to get over the hump. It seemed like momentum was going their way, but then Kuzminskas made this unbelievable baseline 3-pointer to stretch the lead back out, and that was kind of the backbreaker for Team USA. But this loss for Team USA, honestly, frankly, it was good for him. And I don't mean for like psychological reasons, like, oh, now we know what we gotta work on or focus on. Like, specifically, this loss gave them perhaps an easier path to the gold medal. If you're not following World Cup, there's a bunch of group play. There was the initial group play, round 1, where they eliminated half the teams. Then they moved into further group play into round 2, where you played 2 more games to see which 8 teams make the quarterfinals. Team USA had already wrapped up their spot in the quarterfinals before this game, and by losing, they ended up now are going to face Italy instead of Serbia. To me, Serbia seems like the stronger team. So they face a weaker team, it looks like, in the quarterfinals against Italy. They also end up on what looks like the weaker side of the bracket. The other 2 teams on their side of the bracket, it's Latvia and Germany. Now, Germany's looked very, very good. Germany's won all their games. Dennis Schroeder's balling out. Even like Franz Wagner hasn't been playing, and they look great. But this side of the bracket doesn't have Canada, doesn't have Luka Doncic and Slovenia. That seems maybe like a easier or a more simple path to the gold medal. So perhaps, or the whatever you call it, the World Championship, this is the World Cup, perhaps this loss will actually benefit Team USA just by moving them to the other side of the bracket. So Jaren, hopefully he can bounce back. I mean, all the guys on Team USA in their post-game media stuff, they said all the right stuff. Like, hey, Lithuania's a good team. We didn't play well enough. We didn't rebound. We didn't defend. All accurate, all obvious. They're not like pretending that they should have done any better. And Lithuania's a strong squad. They've won all their games so far at the World Cup. So they're going to be a tough team. They have to play Serbia now, which again, seems like a worse option than having to play Italy, but maybe I'm wrong there. Now, the other Grizzly involved in the World Cup is Santi Aldama, and Aldama had this unbelievable game against Canada. Now, Canada and Spain were both upset in their fourth game of group play. Canada was stunned by Brazil. Like, Canada looked like the best team at the entire thing until they all of a sudden lost to Bruno Caboclo in Brazil. And then Spain lost to Latvia, to the Bertans brothers in Latvia. And that was, again, a surprising loss. Both of those teams blew leads. And because of them both losing, that meant there was a win or go home game in their final group play on Sunday. So it was Canada with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Dillon Brooks and RJ Barrett and Kelly Olynyk and Dwight Powell and, a bunch of good NBA players. They have 9 NBA players. And then you had Team Spain, which is one of the tournament pre-favorites. They don't have as many current NBA players, but they got Willie and Juancho Hernan-Gomez. They still have Rudy Fernandez on the team. And, of course, Santi Aldama is playing. Now, in the loss to Latvia, Santi Aldama did not play in the second half. He got a DNP in the second half, and frankly, I was stunned by that. Because even though Santi had been like the 9th guy off the bench or like the 4th guy off the bench, it seemed like he was like 9th in the rotation. He had closed some games. He had played a lot of minutes in all the games. He had led the team in scoring in a couple of the games. So like them not playing Santi Aldama at all, I found very shocking in this second half against Latvia, where they blew a 10-point lead. They're up by 10 going into the fourth quarter. Now, in this elimination game against Canada on Sunday, again, a very incredible, exciting game. Spain was up by 10 in the first half, and Santi was playing well. And then in the second half, Canada came back, but it wasn't due to Santi Aldama. Santi Aldama was cooking. Santi Aldama had this unbelievable windmill dunk. He scored 8 points during a Spain run, hit a couple of big threes during this run. He finished with 20 points on 4 out of 5 on 2-pointers and 4 out of 7 on 3-pointers, but it was not enough. Canada came back and won this game, so Spain is eliminated. Santi Aldama, very surprisingly, got eliminated. Now Spain, of course, an international basketball powerhouse, is going to have to play in the qualifying tournament next summer to even make the Olympics, but I don't feel like we can put it at Santi Aldama's feet, scoring 20 points on just 12 field goal attempts. He had 20 points, 2 rebounds, 0 assists. Could he do more defensively? Sure. Or rebounding? Yeah. Like 20 points, 2 rebounds, no assists, no steals, no blocks. That's basically like an Allen Houston stat line. But Santi was cooking. He even made a big 3-pointer with like 8 seconds left. They were down 4. He hits this clutch 3-pointer to cut it to 1. But then Shai Gilgeous-Alexander makes 2 clutch free throws, and Spain misses a 30-footer or 35-footer or so at the buzzer that would have tied it. Now Canada wins largely on the performance of our old friend Dillon Brooks. If you haven't watched this game, if you have ESPN Plus, you can watch the replay of the game. Watch the second half. Dillon Brooks is awesome. Dillon Brooks tied the game with a clutch 3-pointer. It was 80-77, and Santi helps over a little on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, which seems like a fair decision by Santi. Shai passes it to Dillon. Dillon drills the 3. Dillon in this game made all 3 of his 3-pointers. He finished with 22 points. He also played great defense in this game. He drew a lot of offensive fouls, forced a lot of turnovers. He even got a couple assists where he drove and then dropped it off to guys. Dillon was magical. It was kind of wild to watch. I still, of course, have a soft spot for Dillon Brooks, so that was fun to see. I'll be very excited to watch how Canada does on their side of the bracket going forward. Unfortunately for Santi Aldama, a very nice World Cup, and this going away game, their last one, he was very, very impressive. So now we just focus on what can Santi do for the Grizzlies going forward this season. By the way, that Team USA and Italy game will be on Tuesday morning. I've been watching most of these games over in my playback room. So if you want to watch them with me, come to playback.tv/Fast Break Breakfast. The quarterfinals game is at 7:40 a.m. Central. So if you want to watch Team USA and Jaren Jackson Jr. play Italy with me, go to playback.tv/Fast Break Breakfast. Also, if you want to play fantasy football with me, if you're listening to this on Monday, September 4th, hey, this is a last-second opportunity to join my listener league for a fantasy football league. You have to be a Patreon supporter, patreon.com/Fast Break Breakfast. I could probably squeeze 2 more people in and we would play in a very, very large league. But if you want to play fantasy football with me and also support the creation of this very show, go to patreon.com/fastbreakbreakfast and support me there. All right, that's the whole episode for today. Hope you guys are having a great Labor Day. I'll talk to you soon. Go Grizz.